This dude got to work instantly.
That second, took the marker out of my hand, erased my whiteboard, and did some Einstein shit on my whiteboard.
Instantly.
I
Said,
love
well,
it.
this is what I'll do. And boom. And had a plan. He had been preparing for that moment, I feel like, his whole life, you would think.
That's right.
And it just all fell right into place.
Bustin' knuckles.
Go bust some knuckles.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Bustin' Knuckles podcast, where we break down everything door knocking sales for the roof and door-to-door industry. My name is Clint.
I'm Dylan.
And today we're going to be talking about creating business systems from an owner's side. So every salesperson out there starts running the numbers and thinks, I want to be an owner. If you're up for it, it can be a very rewarding and prosperous career. But you have to create proper systems. Only do the things that only you can do. And a lot of times this is more difficult than people initially embark. One of the few things that we got started on early was creating an operational system and a training system that allowed us to replicate ourselves and our values in others and allow us to have more reps out in the field. Dylan actually created the training manual. And how did you go about that? What was your process on that?
Well, I had a few training manuals that I'd seen before, to say the least. But really and truly just breaking down what we've done, reverse engineered everything down to a T, and just started from there. Really starting with door knocking. I feel like that's the hardest part, getting in the door, being able to convince someone to get on the roof. Once you've done that, the rest, anyone can be taught.
So we like to create sales black belts first. And we say this all the time. A good salesperson could come into this industry day one and sell $1 million in their first year without knowing a lick about roofing.
You don't have to be a salesperson either. You could come from elevators or working on elevators or anything.
That's right.
You might not even know you're the salesman.
You could learn those skills. The second part becomes mastering roofing components. Really, the product knowledge becomes what sets you apart in a sea of other talented salespeople. What is the first? You start with door knocking. What's the first part of the roof mastery that you look at?
Probably just if you can learn, obviously, your 3-tab, your basic asphalt shingles. Once you've learned that, from a 3-tab to an arc, things of that nature. Maybe not even designers yet, just those two. Then I would move into how the roof is installed because once you've got that just basic product knowledge, I feel like it makes the doors that much easier. And again, that's the hard part. So if you can get that basic product knowledge after the door knocking, I think, again, your sales career will just amplify.
We've had some really good role models in this, people that have trained us along the way. I want to shout out the Get It Bought podcast by Chad Conley, D2D podcast by Sam Taggart. When you invest in yourself and start really pouring into these platforms that are free game, that's all it is. It's free game to help you get better. Your business can skyrocket and your personal knowledge can skyrocket. A few of the things that we've put out along the way, payroll was a big time eater. And we've created a system now where every check that gets entered goes through the front office. People get paid off their check. They get paid off profit splits. There's a tier system here. And every check that comes through gets logged into an Excel sheet. Actually, we'll put up a template that will show you guys how you could do this as well. We'll make it all blank. When the check gets entered, it translates directly to the employee's pay grade, and eventually we get a nice, neat report that says who gets paid what amount, and that's been outsourced to take off of our plate. I'll say it again, only do the things that only you can do. Your best skill set as an entrepreneur is running the ship. It is strategizing and planning for the future to see the things that end up being a long-term vision and not short-term money.
Yeah, it's hard to work on the business if you're working in the business.
It is. And a lot of people get into business for themselves for the freedom and end up creating a job for themselves instead of a lifestyle. And it can end up being a prison. You want to build a future and a career that allows you unlimited freedom, or as much as you want.
Systems.
Business systems.
Yeah.
You are creating systems dependent businesses and not people dependent businesses, so that if anybody died or left or quit, you could fill that void and fill that spot very quickly. So another big systems key, a level up for us in our career, was Carlos. We needed an operations manager, and we needed one bad. When we started this company, we were playing every single role. And it helps a lot when you have a partner and you can divide up some of those tasks. But we said it from the beginning, we're going to put that energy out there, and the operations manager is right in front of us. I remember, this is a crazy story.
It is.
I remember I called a bunch of my mentors, and I said, where did you find your ops manager? And every single one of them said, you know what? He's probably right under your nose. He's probably right in front of you. And one of them even said, he went as far as to say, go look for the hardest working person in a restaurant, and that's probably your guy. And I'm on the phone with Dylan. I call him. I pick up the phone and I call him. And what'd you say, man?
So literally, you just relayed what your mentors were telling you, like, hey, look, it's probably right in front of you, things of that nature. And the moment you said that and it got out of your mouth, Carlos hopped out of his car. I was at the office parked, and Carlos was literally right in front of me. And the hardest person I know as far as working. He came from the restaurant industry, and on top of that, he spoke Spanish, which is a big thing when it was like communicating with the crews and on the operations side in general. And the dude was literally right in front of me when he said, sometimes they keep saying he's right in front of you. So it was just all the signs pointed at Carlos.
The universe, it works in crazy ways. So we sat down with him. I said, hey, we're thinking about hiring you for this job. And he immediately took the marker out of my hand.
Most people will just be like, hey, okay, and their eyes will get big, and they'll sit there and be like, oh, heck yeah, you won't regret it type stuff. This dude got to work instantly.
That second, took the marker out of my hand, erased my whiteboard, and did some Einstein shit on my whiteboard.
Instantly.
I
said,
love
well,
it.
This is what I'll do. And boom, and had a plan. He had been preparing for that moment, I feel like, his whole life, you would think.
That's right.
And it just all fell right into place.
And if you guys don't know me yet, I fucking love whiteboards, blackboards, chalkboards. Like, that's my Steve Jobs shit. Take over my whiteboard and make it look like a tech room culture in a blue collar industry. Like, I live for that. And it was crazy how it fell into place. So we did the same thing. 6 months later, we decided, hey, we need a sales manager. And we're putting that energy out there. We've got to have somebody that can stay on top of the guys, work with the guys, help organize their time, because we're getting caught up playing all these different roles, and it's distracting us from the mission. We have to always, and that's a thing in business. Every single day, things are gonna distract you from the mission. Figuring out how to laser focus and complete the mission, bring the mission to fruition, it's imperative. So execution. Always stay executing, never not working. And sure enough, these guys fall in our lap. Now, the guy actually turned down the sales manager position, but through the process, we developed that role, and we were able to fill it through several other people, which led us to opening a new branch in Austin, Texas. It's just, things don't always work out exactly the way you planned, but when you take steps in the right direction, you find a better or newer plan that manifests itself as well.
100%. And also, just to touch back based on some systems and things like that, AccuLinks, your CRM, should help you implement some systems right off rip. You shouldn't have to go in and possibly start every single system from scratch. Like these CRMs, AccuLinks is who we use. A lot of roofers use that. That alone will have some basic systems, and as long as you utilize them, even from, ordering your materials. Hell, when I first started, I was literally doing the math of how many pieces of ridge vents I needed to do based on how many linear feet I had. Like, I was doing all of that math on a piece of paper, writing it all down, and not even realizing AccuLinks had those systems in place for me already. So like utilizing your CRM, if you haven't had like your one-on-one webinar with the sales lady who calls you 24/7, you should. It'll help you implement some of those systems in AccuLinks even quicker. Again, Carlos is who's maximized AccuLinks for us and setting those up. So just right off rip, you don't have to start all these systems from scratch. A lot of them are right in front of you. You just have to know how to utilize them.
And I think that a big piece of that, we use AccuLinks for our CRM. We use Spodio to help track door knocking. We use Xactimate for our supplements. We use, what's another one? We use iDamage and Storm Intelligence to help find good areas and good damage, pinpoint those neighborhoods. What's another one we use?
Well, we use AccuLinks for ordering materials.
That's right.
Communicating with the crews, and maybe even homeowners. You can send emails to your adjuster through there. It'll keep a thread for you, so you can keep track of literally every single thing that ever happened with that homeowner, as long as you keep track of it in your message board, as you should.
QuickBooks.
QuickBooks is another one.
If you're not using
Spodio.
QuickBooks or some type of accounting software, I cannot stress this enough. One of the biggest mistakes that I see young entrepreneurs making is they don't keep a careful account of their records. You have to operate under the assumption that you are going to get audited at any minute. And when you do, you don't want to be caught with your pants down. Everybody thinks, man, when I'm just young, I'll make it happen. I'll stay profitable. Steven Drucker said that what can be measured can be improved. What can be tracked can be improved. And if you don't have that data, you don't know what goals you need to hit. So AccuLinks in particular and QuickBooks, they don't do a good job of accurately forecasting your accounts receivable. So we actually import that data to our own Excel sheet every month and just have a good idea of what money's coming in versus what's coming out. Managing cash flow that actually probably is the number one.
It's the number one thing that I see owners struggle with. I came up with, there was probably 15 of us, like, that were legitimate sales guys that used to work for an old company that we used to, sell for. But long story short, all of those guys have either ran a branch at this point or owned their own. And the number one thing that I notice tends to kind of get most of them in trouble is their cash flow. A lot of them, or I say a lot of them, there's a couple that would, sign 15 deals up and want to build all 15 deals immediately. Well, in 30 days, 60 days, depending on what, turnaround you have for your distributors, that's all going to be due. So you're banking on all of that money coming in, the insurance not, delaying and, letting emails sit in their inbox forever. Like, you're banking on a lot of things if you're doing that. So you should really spread those out. I wouldn't say spread yourself thin, but, I would definitely not do all of them at once. That way, like, hey, in 60 days, 30 days, whatever that turnaround is for you, that it's not all going to be due at once.
The beauty of insurance-based roofing is that your money is for sure money. That money's coming. The problem with insurance-based roofing is cash flow. You are on a 60 to 90-day payout, and if you build, unfortunately, your bills are not on a 60 to 90-day payout. Your bills are due every 30 days, maybe 60 if you've got a really good line of credit with somebody, but 90 is almost unheard of unless you're just running a really big business. But when you're getting started, managing that cash flow is key, because 80%, I don't remember the exact statistic, we'll figure it out, 80% of roofing companies go out of business their first year, and then another 10% their second year. People do not stay in this game for longevity, and the ones that do figured out how to manage their cash flow. The last thing I want to talk about really is QuickBooks. One more time, if you're not accounting, you can't be improving. Find a way to track your records and set new goals so that you can learn from the past and accurately forecast where you want to be this year or next year. If you have a month that underperformed for some reason and you don't realize that, you're leaving money on the table, you're leaving opportunity for your guys on the table. It is up to you to make sure that your team eats. You eat. We put food on the table for dozens of families at this point, and it's a burden and a responsibility, but it's also one of our greatest joys. So keeping track of that accounting software, keeping track of your customers, implementing those systems, replicating yourself in others, and finding a way to align your customers and your team members is huge, because emphatic, enthusiastic team members create glowing reviews from customers that end up being a plethora of referrals. It ends up being a referral train. Do you know how long your longest referral train is?
I'm still going on them.
Yeah.
If I were to keep count of it, it's probably, I'd say 50 roofs last year plus were all referrals.
It's lit.
I don't have to door knock anymore.
Right.
If I didn't want to. I mean, that's something I always say this: if you're good at door knocking, you don't have to door knock. If you do it
The
right,
less you have to.
Yeah. Now, if you're good at it, I would suggest doing it. Just work smarter, not harder. I don't have to go in a neighborhood from scratch anymore. I can get referred in there and then kind of work around where my foot was already in the door. That's smarter, not harder. Where I don't have to go and beat down doors for 4 hours anymore, and that all comes from delivering, communicating, and
Executing.
under promising and over delivering. That's all it boils down to. And of course, not every customer is going to be happy. That's impossible. If every single customer is happy, you don't have enough customers. I'll tell you that now. But if you do it right, you don't have to worry about door knocking hard anymore.
That's right. And on that topic, our next episode, we'll dig into a little bit more on the actual door knocking side. This is where we started. We started by busting knuckles, pounding down doors, and we still do. We still do knock doors, and we do ride these referral trains. But at this point in the game, we're focused on implementing these systems and making sure that the ship runs smoothly and continues to grow by incentivizing our team members to continue carrying these out and grow along with us. We believe in growing everybody up. We support entrepreneurship. We support people's dreams. We establish goals and set a vision, both as a company and as individuals and as owners, that we hope inspires people to take action for themselves. Guys, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. We harped on systems. We'll get more in details on it. Maybe even go into details of like what we do on Mondays versus what we do on Tuesdays, and every single week we'll break it down to that. But we still are perfecting some of our systems. But once we do, we'll give you a little more details on all of those.
It's a work in progress. This is year 3 for us. We're still learning things every day. But the beauty of this is that we took action. We continue to take action, and in a lot of ways, we start without thinking. We're jumping out of the plane and building a parachute on the way down. But goddamn, we're doing it.
Yeah. What do they say? Entrepreneurs start without thinking, and what's the saying?
Most people think about starting. Entrepreneurs start without thinking.
Yeah. You guys just got to take action. One foot in front of the other.
Guys, we are the Bustin' Knuckles podcast. We're going to keep bringing you content every single week. My name is Clint.
I'm Dylan.
And have a great day. Bustin' Knuckles.
Go bust some knuckles.